I'm going to go over everything you need to know as a new player in Duel Links, what character to play, what decks to get, what rewards to grind, and how to spend your gems, or money if you're willing to. I'll cover different ways to start a game, whether or not you want to play the game casually or competitively, or how much budget you have. If I forget to mention something, you can probably find suggestions from other people in the comments, so if you are an experienced player watching this video, please leave a comment on how you would start a new account. I have a playthrough of me playing a new account, so check that video out if you want to know the entire step-by-step process. Also, make sure to check the description for the deck links of decks that I'm going to talk about, and you can click on the cards to see where you can obtain them. So I haven't made a new player guide for quite a long time. The last time I've made a complete new player guide was, I believe, 2 years ago, when I was still using the crappy text-to-speech voice. A lot of things have changed in the game, and there are new and better ways to start playing as a new player. Since the release of a Master Duel, most other Duel Links YouTube channels have moved their main focus to Master Duel, if not completely abandoning Duel Links. And no one will probably make a new player guide for Duel Links if I don't, so here it is. Just remember that this video is just a guide on how I would personally recommend starting the game. If you know you want to play the game in a different way, just do it. Don't let me stop you from doing things you enjoy. Almost immediately after starting the game, you will be given a choice on the starting character you get. You will eventually get both anyway, so don't stress yourself too much if you regret your decision. People generally agree that Yami Yugi is by far the best pick of the two, because he has a really good skill called the Destiny Draw that allows you to choose any card in your deck for your next draw. But for this new player guide, it doesn't really matter which character you choose, because you won't be using either of their skills for your starter deck, so just choose the one that you like. As soon as you have access to the game settings, change them immediately. These are the settings that I would recommend, but if you have any personal preference, feel free to change them on your own. After doing the tutorial and downloading the additional data, you'll get a whole bunch of gems and card tickets, which you can immediately use to make your first good deck, because in case you couldn't tell, all the starter decks that you get from unlocking characters are really bad, like unplayably bad. There are several options you can choose in this position, and this is what this video is mainly going to be about. As a new player on day 2 and day 4, you will get these things called a dream ticket as part of your login rewards. These are really good versions of the regular card tickets, which allow you to basically get any card of their rarity, so you can even choose cards from boxes other than only free to obtain cards. Generally, you should use dream tickets on generic stable cards like a Book of Moon, because they can be used in any deck. You can see the best generic staples in the game by going to ranked and checking the most popular cards. And any card that doesn't belong to a specific deck are staples that you might want to consider. Stuff like Book of Moon and Cosmic Cyclone, or even monsters like Nightmare Unicorn. It's also a good idea to hold on to your dream tickets until they're about to expire, so you will have dream tickets available if there's a random card that's suddenly really good in the meta. I think it's fine to use dream tickets on archetype support, especially if you're a new player who has a goal in mind, but never spend dream tickets on cards that are free to obtain. So you should always turn on this box filter over here when you're choosing your cards. And this will limit the selection to only cards that are available from boxes, which need gems to get, so you'll get more value from your dream tickets. And also, you probably shouldn't pick cards that are too old, because older cards are typically not as good as new ones, except a few staple cards like Cosmic. But other than that, you should probably sort by release date, so you don't choose cards that are outdated and no longer good in today's meta. Okay, so now let's talk about some decks that you might want to build as a new player. If you already have a favorite deck, go for it. Don't let me tell you what to do. One thing you should probably keep in mind is that it is a much better idea to use dream tickets on generic staple cards instead of cards that can only be used in one single deck. But if one of the key cards in your deck is from an old box with no other good cards, you maybe want to consider spending your dream tickets on those cards as well. I would personally recommend this method if you have a favorite deck. Basically, before you spend gems on a deck you like, you will spend your gems on a single structure deck. So before you get all the required cards for your favorite deck, you have another deck, which I like to call an insurance deck, to use for auto dueling, farming, or even low level rank grinding. After so many years, the best structure deck for this purpose is still all the way down here. It's the Red Eyes structure deck. Return of the Red Eyes is a really good structure deck because the newer structure decks require a specific skill for them to work, which makes them pretty bad for XP grinding and auto duels because the auto duel algorithm doesn't really know how to activate skills. And there isn't that problem for Return of the Red Eyes because the deck is based around activating Red Eyes Fusion, which doesn't need a skill. By spending a bit of your free tickets, you can also very easily complete a Red Eyes insurance deck for all kinds of purposes. You can also modify the deck a bit to use as a farming deck if you want to. We will talk about farming decks later. If you want to start winning games in ranked or even climb to the top with the cheapest deck possible, this is the method to go. If you're using this method, you don't even need an insurance deck because you are almost guaranteed to have at least one playable deck after spending all your free starter gems on this method. The current best box to get for any budget player is the Pulse of Quasars box. I have an entire video on the Quasar route in the description, so I won't go over too much detail on the box over here. Basically, the box has support for sulfur chords, which is probably one of the best, if not the best, budget deck to build as a new Duel Links player. And here is a sample deck list only using maximum 2 super rare cards from the box. I also have a separate video on how to play this deck, so go check it out if you have any problems. Link is in the description. If you just really like winning games with the best decks, you can always check the most used cards in ranked, or go online to search the most competitive deck anytime. Making top tier decks is going to be an expensive way to play the game because these decks will only be powerful for about 3 months until Konami eventually puts those cards in the ban list to reduce their power. And the best decks of the game changes each time good cards or skills are released, so I do not personally recommend always getting the best deck in the game, especially when decks that are slightly less good like Sulfur Chords can still get you to the top of ranked with a much lower risk of being completely destroyed by the ban list. I've done a couple videos on box routes before. Basically, a route is what I like to call a series of boxes that you could buy in a specific order to get a whole bunch of different decks using only a comparatively small amount of gems or money. You can find links in the description to those videos. If you're willing to spend just a tiny amount of money on the game, well, you can always just spend money on the Sulfur Chord box, but another option you have is to buy multiple structure decks. There is an annoying restriction on structure decks that only let you buy them once using gems, and then you will have to spend money. They're actually not that expensive, so if you know which structure decks to get, it can be a really good deal. Keep in mind that many structure decks require a specific skill to work. For example, this structure deck will require Magician's Magic to unlock its full potential. But those skills are pretty easy to get. You just complete a lifetime mission, so it shouldn't be too big of a problem. Some of the best structure decks include Secret of Magicians, Odd Eyes Challenger, Ruddy Rose Burning, and to a lesser extent, DD Apocalypse, Stardust Nexus, and Rise of Gaia. Tellarknight Advent isn't as good as the ones that I just mentioned, but it doesn't need a specific skill to work, which is pretty nice. You can easily build a competitive deck by getting free copies of any of those structure decks, plus maybe a few missing pieces using dream tickets. If you have a huge amount of money to spend on this game, selection boxes are your friend. They contain the best generic stable cards to use in any deck, along with supports for popular archetypes at the time of their release. It is limited time, so you might not see it when you're playing. It is usually in this location in the specials tab, and as you can see, it isn't on sale right now, but it does come back from time to time. Selection Box 6, Selection Box Super Mini 2, Selection Box 4, and Selection Box Mini 4 are my personal picks. Some selection boxes are bigger than others, so choose the size and amount of selection boxes according to your own budget. Any Duel Links player should have a farming deck. Basically, farming decks aim to get as many duel rewards as possible from a duel, and the most common way is to deal over 10,000 damage with one attack and no cards left in your deck. Winning with only effect damage or summoning an Egyptian god card also give you bonus points. When you use tickets to get the cards for a farm deck, always try to get as many prismatic cards as possible, because each prismatic card you use gives you even more bonus points. This is a really cheap mist body farm deck that only uses free cards that you can get with tickets or just by playing the game. I have a video on how to use the deck as well. Before I end the video, here are some general tips that I think everyone should know as a new player in Duel Links. Firstly, always duel standard duelists whenever you can. They are the NPCs wandering around in the duel world, and they are your main source of character experience, which is also your main source of gems. So don't leave them hanging around and duel them whenever you can. Also duel them with 3 times rewards regularly. The deck lists in game are complete garbage. Don't use them other than the sample KC Cup or WCS deck lists once every 3 months, because those are actual good decks winning competitive events. The recently added deck upload feature in Ranked is also pretty decent. Just remember to set your filter to only show decks that got to King of Games, which you can do by going to filters and selecting King of Games decks. Or instead, going online and searching for the decks you want to build is also a pretty good idea. Or you can go to YouTube and look at people playing the deck so you can get a sense on how those decks work before you actually spend gems to make them. Watching replays once a day gives you 5 gems. It's not a lot, but it's free and it'll stack up. And also, as a side note, you don't have to watch the replay entirely. You can just pick whatever replay you want, and once the replay starts, you could just leave the replay and it will give you the 5 gems. As you can see, let me show you real quick. So that's the beginning screen, and as soon as the stop button comes up, we will click it, and we will get the 5 gems. Yep, here we go. You can also get a tiny bit of free gems by tapping on specific locations in your Duel world. For example, you can tap on this garbage can over here. In the shop, you can tap on the bubble on the shop, and if you see the little present, you get free gems. And in here, you can tap on the lanterns. If it glows up like that, you get free gems. And over here, you can tap on the fountain, and if there's a rainbow like this, you get free gems as well. It's not a lot, but it will stack up. Play events, especially those that unlock a new character. Character level up rewards are your main source of gems, and some characters have exclusive cards and skills that are really good, so you definitely don't want to miss out on those. You might come across a little something called a duel pass. These things are garbage. Don't get them. It is not worth it. Okay, here are some more advanced tips. Learn to detect delays and use the toggle button, which is over here. You can make the toggle button appear by going to settings over here, and you scroll all the way here, and you can select the toggle button. You can often predict what set cards your opponent has by keeping track of when there's a delay after your action, and this is something that you will learn over time. On the other hand, you can hide your own delays by using the toggle button over here to trick your opponent, but you will need to know exactly when to toggle on or toggle off, otherwise you will miss your own activations. Toggling on also allows you to activate quick effects in moments that you otherwise couldn't, such as the draw phase or the start of the battle phase, because the game doesn't normally ask you to activate an effect during those places. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Again, if I forget to mention something, you can probably find suggestions from other people in the comments, and you can always ask questions in the comments if you're not sure about something. But regardless, remember to have fun and don't hesitate to play the game in a way that you enjoy. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.